A group of anti-mask protesters refused to wear masks at the meeting and refused to leave the room when asked. That prompted the school board to postpone its meeting.
Okay, so it's their policy, it's their building. Okay?
No, it's our building. It's our building. Yeah, we pay for that.
As you could hear there, the group began going back and forth with board members as well as the police officer brought in to try to stop the disruption. Board members then left the room, and this comes 5 days after Oshkosh's superintendent announced a mask requirement for all students. Board members were not scheduled to take action on the mandate tonight. The board president says delaying the meeting isn't a chief concern. One protester says they'll be back for other meetings. Tonight, we hear from both sides.
I'm not worried about the disruption. I'm worried about the message that it sends our community, that if you're uncomfortable with something like this, that you can come and disrupt public works that are taking place. Our goal is to put students first.
We, I think, sent a very strong message that we, the parents, are not gonna back off. They work for us, so we're gonna keep coming back. And if they don't hold another meeting, we are going to replace them.
The Oshkosh Area School District sent a letter to families today after anti-mask protesters postponed its school board meeting.
Arguments between the parents and the board members broke out during last night's meeting regarding the district's masking mandate. The school updated its COVID-19 protocols to remain in full effect, including that requirement that all staff, students, and visitors wear face coverings inside all district buildings through October 1st. Now, during the meeting, several attendees refused to wear a mask, leading to the board meeting ending. The board president says he hopes community members will be respectful of the protocols and one another so that each voice can be heard and everyone can share their opinions. The issue of masking children in schools has certainly become a contentious one, and it's not just in the area of Oshkosh.
That's right. Fox 11's Monique Lopez speaks to a local psychologist about what could be driving parents' adamant feelings about masking or unmasking children. Tonight, she brings us a closer look.
First, Clintonville.
Nobody's here out trying to screw your kid.
Then Appleton. Now, Oshkosh. Like many other areas, the Fox Valley has seen its fair share of parents for and against masking students in their school districts.
Unfortunately, it's become, politicized and just at a point where, people just have some deep-seated feelings about it.
The superintendent has been here for about 2 months, but worked in Shorewood for about 6 years. And he says he's never seen anything like this before.
I haven't seen anything at this level, which I think is fortunate.
Both sides of the masking issue seem to have an unwavering stance on what they believe.
To me, it doesn't really matter what they decide. I'm just not sending my kid with a mask, so.
There is incredibly strong science around the fact that masks are effective, they work.
The question is, why? Dr. Frank Cummings, a psychologist in Menasha, says it really boils down to 5 reasons. Politics, an unavailable vaccine for children 12 and under, not enough research available to say cloth masks are in fact effective, this being an unprecedented pandemic, and the fear of the unknown.
Most parents love their kids and they want the best for their kids, but they also want to protect them. And do they want to protect them physically from some unknown, unseen thing? Or do they want to protect their kids' freedom of choice?
But Dr. Cummings says it's not just parents who are impacted in all of this, and depending on how they choose to voice their opinion, could ultimately affect their children.
No kid ever comes up to their parent and says, "Daddy, Mommy, please teach me how to deal with my anger." They don't do that. What they do is they make you angry, and then they step back and they watch, that's how I'm supposed to deal with my anger. That's how I solve problems.
In the Fox Valley, Monique Lopez, Fox 11 News.
We are here with Executive Director Kimberly Hess. Good morning again to you, Kimberly.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having us. This is really a cool setup that can kind of showcase what we need to kind of get refreshed on.
Yes, we all need to get there relatively quickly.
It's coming, isn't it? I showed this earlier in that little segment I did before we started. kind of showing where would you work with the kids when they're crossing this area, and your answer is they shouldn't be crossing in this intersection.
Exactly, they should not be crossing in this area. Teaching the kids to cross at the crosswalks, and we have our crosswalks here, and when they go back to school, we want to make sure they're using those crosswalks, looking left, right, left before they cross the road.
Now, when we go back to a bit of driver's ed education here, we talk about what designates a pedestrian. So we're looking at a situation like this where you have vehicle, and let's say you have a child on a trike. What designate? None of these are pedestrians, or what would be a pedestrian?
The child on the bike, when they're riding on a sidewalk, follows the rules of pedestrian. So those little kids you see on bikes, they have the right of way, they're a pedestrian. When you see an older child, you know, somebody 11 or 12, and they're riding on the road, they need to follow the rules of a motor vehicle, because if you're biking on the road, you're considered a motor vehicle.
Really? So if you see any sort of person biking on sidewalk, that is someone that you would pedestrians have the right of way. That's always what you think of in that case. But children do need to follow that vehicle mindset when they are riding on the street then.
Yep, if they're riding on the street, they're considered a vehicle.
All right. So crosswalks are also important things to keep in mind. Something to make sure your kids are aware of, that they are very knowledgeable about what these are and what they mean, right?
Correct. Because oftentimes you see them darting across the road where there aren't crosswalks. And we as drivers, we're trained to look for the crosswalks and for kids to be crossing at those crosswalks.
And a couple of other reminders that we can talk about coming up. We'll be hitting up bus safety, because that's one of the big ones too. You were telling me the top two things, one of them is knowing what to do around a stopped bus, but then the other one that you see problems with is
people speeding through school zones.
Yes. Time to start slowing down when we come to the school zones now that school's in session. One last reminder for you, because this is always a good refresher. What side of the road are we going on? If we're walking, we walk on the
left side of the road.
And if we're biking?
We bike on the right side of the road.
That's always good to remember.